Hello and welcome to Windows Business Weekly. My name is Russell Smith, and in today's episode I'll be looking at the patches Microsoft released last Tuesday and at how to defer the Windows 10 May 2019 update. All that is coming up. So let's start with Patch Tuesday. So last week Microsoft released quite a few important patches for Windows. There's one 0-day flaw in the Windows error reporting service, and it could allow an attacker to get administrative privileges even if the user is logged in with standard user rights. So that one's obviously quite important. There are also the Zombieload side channel attack fixes. Now, if you haven't heard about this already, there's a new kind of attack that affects Intel chips. So this is related to, of course, the Spectre side channel attacks that were first revealed last year. And these are relatively new in that we're only just finding out about them, although it's clear that Intel probably have known about them for around a year or something like that. But Microsoft have now patched Windows. But they've also said, like the Spectre fixes, that you're also going to need to install Microcode Update to get full protection. So what that means is you're going to have to update your firmware. Now, Microsoft are distributing new microcode updates where they've been made available by Intel. But unfortunately, for some versions of Windows, they're not currently available. So you get the patch for Windows, but you don't get the microcode. So the versions of Windows where you don't currently have microcode for Microsoft are Windows 10 version 1803 for 64-bit systems, Windows Server version 1803 for server core, version 1809 of Windows 10 64 bits, Windows Server 2019, and the server core installation of Windows Server 2019. And of course that is all the most currently supported versions of Windows. Now at the moment Microsoft are saying that they will make the microcode updates available as soon as Intel hands them over basically, or that you should look at your OEM for firmware updates. Of course, for my PCs, I haven't found any OEM updates that address this issue at the moment. So it looks like the fixes for many of us don't fully address the new threats that have been made public now. But as far as we know, there is no exploit code in the wild at the moment. But it has been shown to be effective in a proof of concept demonstration in a lab. So I think it's only a matter of time before we see these flaws being attacked. Now, despite the fact that some versions of Windows aren't fully protected at the moment, Microsoft has said that all of its cloud services have been updated for full protection. Also, Microsoft are saying that some systems may require hyperthreading to be disabled for full protection against these threats. Now, exactly which systems and under which circumstances, they're not saying. So it's not really clear, do you need to disable hyperthreading or not? Now, of course, the main issue with these updates, like those that we saw for Spectre, are that you're going to have another potential performance impact, especially, of course, if you also disable hyperthreading. So I wouldn't panic for the moment. As I said, there's no exploit code in the wild right now. Get those patches installed from Microsoft, and hopefully Microsoft will also distribute microcode updates that are relevant for your systems within the next couple of months. And if not, hopefully your OEM will update the firmware available. Of course, that's something you need to download and install manually on your devices if you don't have the update through Microsoft, but we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully all of your systems will be updated sooner rather than later. What else is important to know about this week's Patch Tuesday? Well, there's a Windows Remote Desktop Services bug that has been patched Not for Windows 10, but for Windows 7, I think Windows 8 as well, and surprisingly Windows XP and Windows Server 2003, which are actually unsupported by Microsoft right now. But this bug could allow a worm to spread through affected systems, so Microsoft have decided to patch that for XP as well. Now, the quality update for Windows 10, so you're probably aware that all of these fixes come together in one quality update, as Microsoft call it. This month is so great that you might find that it actually gets installed twice on your systems. So I was surprised to see this update install itself again the next day, actually. Now, you don't need to worry if that happens. It's something that Microsoft is aware of, and they basically are saying that yes, some patches do need to reboot twice, and that it's a fault in the way the Windows Update display in the Settings app is actually displaying the update has been installed twice. So, okay, basically I just humoured it, rebooted the device. It does show that it installed twice, but I've had no problems with it. So don't be alarmed if your systems reboot twice and you see that appear again in the list of updates installed. There are, of course, updates for Office 365, not many actually, SQL and SharePoint, nothing too out of the ordinary this month. What else is going on? Let me just check. Of course, Adobe software, Flash Player, Acrobat Reader, all of that stuff needs to be patched as usual. There's one interesting update that Microsoft has made to a support document concerning System Restore. Now, I don't think that it's actually connected to this month's updates, but they just happen to have updated the document this month. And basically there's an issue where you might get a stop error on restart after performing a system restore. Now, this is a known issue according to Microsoft, and the workaround is to basically perform or start the system restore in WinRE, so that's the Windows recovery environment, rather than starting it from the Settings app inside Windows, and then you should be able to restart the machine without the stop error. If you're unlucky and you've already got to the situation of the stop error, Microsoft does have some instructions about how you can recover from that. And that's pretty much it for Patch Tuesday stuff this month. As always, you should test devices in your organization before you roll that quality update out to every user, just to make sure that it doesn't cause any issues with your hardware configuration or a line of business applications. And you can try and do that within the first maybe 24 or 72 hours, and then get the patch rolled out more widely. This week, Microsoft also released a minor quality update for the May 2019 update of Windows 10, which at the moment is sitting in the release preview and slow rings for Windows insiders. Now, this suggests that Microsoft is preparing to release this update imminently, because that quality update was released at the weekend, and Microsoft almost never release quality updates at the weekend unless there's a reason. So it might be that it comes this week or maybe next week, of course. Now, that's not a fact that your device will automatically receive the update, because there are lots of criteria for which your device needs to match. So it might be that the devices will be blocked if it doesn't have the right hardware drivers, or some software that's incompatible with the new update, or by region, for instance. So it doesn't mean that when Microsoft release it that you will get it immediately, but you might want to defer that update so that it's not rolled out to your users as soon as it's made available by Microsoft. Now, it depends what update mechanism you're using, how you would go about deferring that update. If you're using Windows Server Update Services or Microsoft System Center Configuration Management, you can delay the update by simply not approving it. If you're using Windows Update for Business, which many smaller organizations will be using, then you can pause the update for up to 18 months. and I just want to talk you through how to do that now. Now, Windows Update for Business, these settings are accessible if you're logged on as an administrator through the Settings app, or you can configure them using Group Policy. So if you open the Settings app and go to Windows Update, you need to click on Advanced Options. And there you'll see a couple of different things that you can select in order to delay updates. So I'm just going to have a look here on my PC. And if I click Advanced Options, and if I scroll down to choose when updates are installed, I can see here that I can choose a deployment branch. Now, by default, you're going to be set to the semi-annual channel targeted branch. Now, what that means is that as soon as the May update is ready and it's released by Microsoft, your machine will potentially be targeted for the updates. Now, the other branch that you have available is the semi-annual channel, without targeted, if you like. Now, this basically means that your device will only be sent the new update when Microsoft believes that it's ready for business use. Now, this is usually 3 or 4 months after the targeted release. So you can select either branch. So by selecting the semi-annual channel and not the targeted branch, you're already going to defer the update by probably 3 or 4 months. And this is a good idea, of course, if you're using Windows in an organization. Now, if you want to delay the updates even further, you can select a number of days, so up to 365 days. So you can select, for instance, the semi-annual channel targeted and delay it for 2 months, or the semi-annual channel without the targeted and delay it for however many months that you want. But of course, you get a slightly different result depending on which branch you choose. And if you want to roll those settings out to all of your users, then of course you can configure it using Group Policy, and I suggest that you do that. And whatever you do, I don't think it's a good idea to roll out the May update to your users as soon as it's available. Even though Microsoft is letting this update gestate a little bit more with Windows Insiders, there are still bound to be some minor issues. Although I really hope that this time round, this extra time that Microsoft have allowed it to bake, internally at Microsoft they're rolling it out as well, and with Windows Insiders, should help to avoid those major issues that we've seen with the last 2 feature updates for Windows 10. And I think that's pretty much it for this week, and hope that you'll join me next week on Windows Business Weekly.